Something is changing, and we can all feel it. It's not just a shift in temperature or a sudden gust of wind rattling the windows at midnight. It's deeper than that. It's a quiet but powerful transformation in the rhythm of our world. A weather flip that is leaving people restless, uneasy, and wide awake when they should be sleeping peacefully. There was a time when weather followed patterns we could trust. Summers were hot, winters were cold, and storms came and went like familiar guests. But now, those patterns are breaking. Heat arrives when it shouldn't. Cold lingers longer than expected. Storms grow stronger, louder, more unpredictable. It's as if nature has rewritten its own rules overnight. And this isn't just happening outside, it's happening within us too. The human body is deeply connected to the environment. When the weather becomes unstable, our internal balance begins to shift. Sudden temperature changes disrupt our sleep cycles. Humidity rises and falls, affecting how we breathe at night. Even the pressure in the air can influence our mood, our heart rate, and our sense of calm. That's why so many people are lying awake tonight, staring at the ceiling, unable to explain why they feel so restless. It's not just stress or overthinking. It's the body reacting to a world that no longer feels predictable. But there's another layer to this. The weather flip is not only physical, it's psychological. When the environment becomes uncertain, it creates a quiet anxiety in the mind. We may not consciously think about it, but deep down we sense that something is off. The winds feel different. The nights feel heavier. The silence carries a strange tension. This collective unease spreads from person to person. Like an invisible wave, one restless night turns into many. People wake up tired, distracted, and emotionally drained. Conversations become shorter. Patience wears thin. It's not just the weather that has changed, it's the atmosphere of human life itself. Yet within this discomfort lies an important message. The weather flip is a reminder that we are not separate from nature. We are part of it. When it shifts, we shift. When it struggles, we feel it. So what can be done? The answer is not to fight the change, but to understand it, to reconnect with natural rhythms instead of ignoring them, to create calm in our surroundings, dim lights, quiet spaces, moments of stillness, so that the body can find balance again even when the outside world feels chaotic. It also means becoming more aware, paying attention to the patterns, noticing how different weather affects sleep, mood, and energy. Small adjustments like changing routines, staying hydrated, or stepping outside during the day can help restore some of that lost harmony. Most importantly, it means accepting that change is happening. The weather flip is not a single event, it's an ongoing transformation. And while it may be unsettling, it also offers an opportunity to adapt, to grow stronger, and to become more in tune with the world around us. Tonight, as many lie awake, listening to the wind or feeling the strange stillness in the air, it's worth remembering this. The restlessness is not random. It's a signal. A whisper from nature, asking us to pay attention, because the world is changing, and whether we realize it or not, we are changing with it. Weather patterns are becoming unpredictable and breaking traditional seasonal rhythms, creating a sense of instability in daily life. Weather patterns are no longer behaving in ways people once relied on, and that quiet shift is beginning to affect everyday life more than most realize. There was a time when seasons followed a familiar rhythm, giving a sense of comfort and predictability. People knew when to expect warmth, when to prepare for cold, and how to plan their days around stable conditions. That sense of order created not only physical ease but also mental calm. Now, that order feels disrupted. Temperatures swing unexpectedly, sometimes within the same day. A warm afternoon can suddenly give way to a chilling night, and clear skies can quickly turn into intense storms without warning. These irregular changes make it harder for people to adjust, both physically and mentally. Daily routines, which once aligned naturally with the weather, now feel out of sync. What to wear, when to go outside, how to plan activities, even simple decisions are becoming uncertain. This unpredictability creates a subtle tension. It may not always be obvious, but it builds over time. When the environment becomes unreliable, people begin to feel less grounded. the stability that once existed in the background of life starts to fade, replaced by a quiet sense of unease. Even if someone is not actively thinking about the weather, the body and mind still register the inconsistency. Another important aspect is how quickly these changes occur. Gradual shifts are easier to adapt to, but sudden flips leave little time for adjustment. The body struggles to keep up, and that strain can carry into other parts of life. Sleep becomes lighter, focus becomes weaker, and energy levels fluctuate without clear reason. This new pattern of unpredictability is not just an inconvenience. It represents a deeper shift in how people interact with their surroundings. The environment is no longer a steady backdrop. It has become dynamic, sometimes even unsettling. As a result, people are being pushed to adapt in ways they never had to before. In the end, the loss of predictable weather patterns is more than a change in climate behavior. It is a change in the rhythm of life itself, quietly influencing how people feel, think, and move through their days. Sudden environmental changes directly affect the human body, disrupting sleep cycles, mood, and overall physical balance. Sudden environmental changes do more than alter what we see outside. They quietly interfere with the body's natural systems, especially the delicate balance that controls sleep. The human body follows an internal clock, often called the circadian rhythm, which is influenced by light, temperature, and overall environmental stability. When these external cues become inconsistent, the body struggles to maintain its usual patterns, and sleep is often the first thing to be affected. A drop or rise in temperature at unusual hours can make it difficult for the body to settle into rest. The body naturally cools down to initiate sleep. But when the surrounding temperature doesn't support that process, it creates discomfort. People may find themselves tossing and turning, unable to find a comfortable position, or waking up multiple times during the night without understanding why. Even slight shifts in humidity can affect breathing, making the air feel heavier or drier, both of which can interrupt deep sleep. Air pressure is another factor that often goes unnoticed. Changes in atmospheric pressure can influence how the body feels, sometimes causing mild headaches, joint discomfort, or a vague sense of restlessness. These physical sensations, even when subtle, can prevent the body from fully relaxing. As a result, sleep becomes lighter and less restorative, leaving people feeling tired even after spending enough hours in bed. Beyond the physical effects, these disruptions begin to influence mood and mental clarity. Poor sleep leads to irritability, reduced focus, and a general sense of fatigue throughout the day. Tasks that once felt simple may start to feel overwhelming, and patience becomes harder to maintain. Over time, this can create a cycle where disrupted sleep leads to stress, and that stress further interferes with the ability to rest. What makes this situation more challenging is that many people don't immediately connect their discomfort to environmental changes. It can feel confusing to be exhausted without a clear reason, or to experience restless nights without any obvious cause. Yet the body is constantly responding to its surroundings, even in ways that aren't immediately visible. These sudden environmental shifts are quietly reshaping how the body functions at rest. Sleep, which once came naturally, now requires more effort and awareness, showing just how deeply connected human well-being is to the stability of the world outside. The weather flip also has a psychological impact, causing hidden anxiety and restlessness even when people don't consciously notice it. The impact of this shift is not limited to the physical world. It extends deeply into the human mind, shaping emotions and creating a quiet, often unrecognized form of anxiety. When the environment becomes unpredictable, the mind begins to sense a loss of control. Human beings are naturally drawn to stability, to patterns that can be understood and anticipated. When those patterns begin to break, even subtly, it creates a background tension that is difficult to explain but impossible to ignore. This psychological effect does not always appear as obvious fear or panic. Instead, it shows up in quieter ways. A lingering restlessness, a sense that something isn't quite right, or an inability to fully relax even in safe and familiar surroundings. People may find themselves overthinking small things, feeling uneasy without a clear reason, or struggling to focus on tasks that once required little effort. It is as if the mind is constantly on alert, trying to make sense of an environment that no longer behaves as expected. At night, this effect often becomes stronger. The absence of daytime distractions allows these subtle feelings to surface more clearly. A person may lie in bed, physically tired but mentally active, with thoughts drifting from one concern to another. The stillness of the night combined with unusual weather patterns, strange winds, unexpected warmth, or an unnatural silence can amplify this feeling. The mind begins to search for explanations, even when none are immediately available. This creates a loop where environmental uncertainty feeds mental unease, and that unease further disrupts the ability to rest. Over time, the accumulation of these restless nights can lead to a deeper sense of fatigue, not just in the body but in the mind as well. Emotional resilience weakens, and even small challenges can start to feel overwhelming. What makes this phenomenon particularly powerful is its invisibility. Unlike a storm or a sudden temperature drop, psychological shifts are not easily seen or measured. Yet they spread quietly, influencing behavior, mood, and overall well-being. People may not talk about it openly, but many experience the same underlying tension. In this way, the changing environment is not just altering the world outside, it is reshaping the internal landscape of the mind, creating a new kind of stress that is subtle, persistent, and deeply connected to the uncertainty of the world around us. This shared unease spreads collectively, leading to widespread fatigue, irritability, and emotional disconnection among people. This growing unease does not remain confined to individuals. It begins to spread quietly across communities, shaping how people interact with one another and experience daily life. When many individuals are affected by restless sleep, subtle anxiety, and physical discomfort, the collective atmosphere starts to change. It becomes less about isolated experiences and more about a shared emotional climate that influences everyone, often without direct awareness. One of the first signs of this collective shift is fatigue. When large numbers of people are not sleeping well, energy levels drop across the board. This shows up in small but meaningful ways: slower conversations, reduced enthusiasm, and a general sense of heaviness in social interactions. People may still go about their routines, but the spark that once made interactions lively and engaging begins to fade. There is less patience, less attentiveness, and a growing tendency to withdraw into oneself. Irritability also becomes more common. When the body and mind are strained, tolerance naturally decreases. Minor inconveniences start to feel more frustrating than they should, and misunderstandings can escalate more quickly. In families, workplaces, and public spaces, this can lead to a rise in tension. Conversations that once felt easy may now carry an edge, as people react not just to the moment, but to an underlying sense of exhaustion and imbalance. Another effect is emotional distance. As individuals struggle internally, they may find it harder to connect with others. This is not necessarily intentional, it is often a protective response. When energy is low and the mind feels unsettled, people tend to conserve what little emotional capacity they have. As a result, empathy and openness may decrease, making relationships feel more strained or distant. What makes this collective experience significant is how quietly it spreads. There is no single event or clear cause that people can point to. Instead, it builds gradually, carried through shared environments and common experiences. The changing weather, the disrupted sleep, and the subtle psychological tension all combine to create an atmosphere that affects entire groups of people at once. Over time, this can reshape the rhythm of communities. The sense of connection that once felt natural may require more effort to maintain. Recognizing this shared experience is important, because it shifts the perspective from individual struggle to collective awareness. It becomes clear that what people are feeling is not isolated, but part of a broader change influencing how society feels, reacts, and relates on a daily basis. The situation highlights the need to reconnect with nature, adapt routines, and become more aware of environmental changes to restore inner balance. Amid all this discomfort and uncertainty, there is also a quiet invitation hidden within the experience. A call to adjust, to become more aware, and to reconnect with the natural world in a more conscious way. When familiar patterns begin to break, the instinct may be to resist or ignore the change, but that often leads to greater frustration. Instead, there is value in observing what is happening and learning how to respond in ways that restore balance, rather than fight against the disruption. One of the most important steps is developing awareness. Noticing how shifts in temperature, air quality, or atmospheric pressure affect sleep, mood, and energy can help bring clarity to what might otherwise feel confusing. When people begin to recognize these patterns, the sense of helplessness starts to fade. It becomes easier to make small adjustments that support the body, rather than expecting it to function the same way under changing conditions. Adapting daily routines is another key part of this process. Simple changes such as adjusting sleep schedules, creating a more comfortable sleeping environment, or limiting exposure to artificial light at night can make a significant difference. Spending time outdoors during stable parts of the day can help reset the body's internal rhythm, even when the overall weather feels unpredictable. These actions may seem small, but they help rebuild a sense of stability from within. Equally important is creating moments of calm. When the external environment feels chaotic, intentional stillness becomes more valuable. Quiet spaces, reduced noise, and mindful pauses during the day can help the mind settle. This is not about escaping reality, but about giving the body and mind the conditions they need to recover and maintain balance. Acceptance also plays a crucial role. Change is already happening, and resisting it completely can increase stress. Accepting that the environment is shifting allows people to focus their energy on adaptation rather than frustration. This shift in perspective can reduce the mental strain that comes from constantly expecting things to feel normal. In the end, this situation is not only a challenge but also an opportunity to become more in tune with the connection between humans and their surroundings. By paying attention, making thoughtful adjustments, and allowing space for calm, it is possible to navigate these changes with greater resilience and a renewed sense of balance, even in a world that feels increasingly unpredictable.